How many of you have said or heard somebody say somewhat commonly, on some level we're all connected? Well, hopefully today I can actually show you some new scientific evidence of at least one of the levels on how we really are connected, so we can take some of the mystery out of part of that. Not that what I'm going to talk about is the whole story. How many of you are somewhat familiar with HeartMath, Institute of HeartMath? Oh, wow. A lot of you. This is our mission for those of you that aren't. So the mission of HeartMath from day one, we were founded in 1990 actually, is to help people bring their physical, mental, and emotional systems into balanced alignment with their heart's intuitive guidance. And at HeartMath, we mean that literally. We really do see the heart, and doing 30 years of research now around how the heart is a source of intelligence. That a lot of the mystics and great religions and philosophers have been right all along, actually. So we're bringing some real kind of, I think, leading edge science to that. But as we connect with our own inner guidance from the heart, that really unfolds the path for becoming heart-empowered individuals, okay? Which means we choose the way of love through compassionate care for Earth and others as well. So that's really what we're all about, and I've developed a lot of techniques and programs and technologies to help support that. So our research is really in three kind of buckets or main categories. Personal, which I'm not going to talk about today, but that's many, I think 400 and some independent research studies later on that side of things now, of teaching people how to better self-regulate, how to connect with their deeper innate heart's intelligence. Social, which we're putting a lot of our focus on now. How do we get along better, right, within our families, schools, communities? Because that really takes sometimes some work, and people need help and processes and techniques to really get along and get rid of the arm's length, right, separations between people. And global. So global is what I'm going to be talking more about today, that side, but a little bit on the personal because it relates to the global. So what you're looking at here are heart rhythms, okay? A lot of people don't know that in a healthy person, our heart rate changes with each and every heartbeat. And that's called heart rate variability. It's very different than heart rate, which is just the average, how many times did the heart beat, right, in a minute. But without this beat-to-beat change, this natural inner variability, there would be no heart rhythm. So these lines here, which is the change in time between each heartbeat, the heart rhythm, would be flat lines, right, if it was the time between each heartbeat was the same. So away from you guys on the left, okay, the red one, it's what the heart rhythm looks like typically when we're feeling things like impatience, frustration, worry, things like this. So it's at some of our early work in the 1990s, looking in the lab at all these three other acronym things, EEGs and skin conductance and all the stuff we do. What we found was that it's the rhythm of the heart, the pattern of the rhythm, that most reflects our emotional state, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we're consciously aware of what we're feeling. Now, there's a whole science of why that's true I won't go into today, but that's what the one on the red one is what we call an incoherent rhythm, and it quite literally reflects the activity in our nervous system, right? So it's incoherent. Things aren't communicating well. The inner systems are out of harmony, literally, measurably. Same person we're looking at here. So the blue one on the right is what we call coherence or heart coherence. So this is the heart's rhythm, which it naturally emerges when we're feeling things like love, kindness, appreciation, compassion. Okay, make sense? And so chasing that rabbit down the hole, there's now like literally 400 independent studies that have confirmed that as we teach people how to spend more time in the coherent state, how to shift into that state and practice it, and that becomes our new what we call baseline, that is ultimately the ultimate optimal state. The brain is the big winner. We think more clearly. We're more connected with our intuition. Better outcomes in a wide range of health, lowered blood pressure, better hormones, all that stuff. So that's a good state we want to get into, right? Okay, so I'm going to come back to that in a minute, so coherence. So switching now to about 8, 9 years ago, we launched a special project called GCI for short, or the Global Coherence Initiative. This is really a project to bring more rigor into the science and study of interconnectivity. How are we interconnected with each other in the Earth itself? So this is a science-based, co-creative project that's really intended to unite people in heart-focused care and intention to facilitate the shift in global consciousness. Arguably, we could say it's fairly unstable these days, and we're feeding the field too much, hate and polarizations and these types of things. But we want to help shift that into more balance, cooperation, enduring peace. It's really our mission. So the kind of high-level overview of the Global Coherence Initiative is it's really meant to help connect people globally who really want to make a difference through our caring intentions. So most of there's 200 and some thousand people involved now, but these are primarily people who get it. We already know that what we think and feel, especially feel, that doesn't just stay inside of our body, it actually reaches outside of us, affects others. We've done a lot of research on that as well, but won't go into. And a lot of education, free programs to help educate the public, and guiding to where to send our energetic contributions. And a kind of a very important part is Earth monitoring. So I'll show you a little bit about. So these are our high-level hypotheses. First one, it's really not a hypothesis. This is really well established, and that is that our cognitive functions, our emotions, our behaviors are affected by the energetic fields we live in. Earth, the sun, for example. Okay? Second one is that the Earth's magnetic fields act literally as carriers of biologically relevant information that we're all connected to. In other words, what I'm suggesting is Earth, us, works just like our cell phones. You get out your phone, right? You're talking to somebody. Well, how does your picture voice get from your phone to the cell tower? It's a magnetic field, electromagnetic field that's carrying that information. Call it a carrier wave, right? So I'm just saying we work the same way. That's what I'm suggesting here. So we're all connected to the bigger field and feeding into what I think of, or what we call a global information field. So it's kind of the sum of all of humanity. And if that's true, this means that when we come together, when large numbers of people are consciously creating more heart-centered states of care, love, kindness, compassion, we can generate a more coherent field, right? That can benefit the whole world, because we all live within the big field environment. And not just humans, animals, trees, plants, right? We're all interconnected through the global field. So here's some of the early evidence that a lot of people aren't aware of. That kind of blew me away when I first learned of it. This is data that was generated by a Russian astrophysicist, Alexander Chesovsky, published in 1926. So he was drafted into World War I, and being an astrophysicist, he was keeping one eye on what the sun was doing. But meanwhile, down here on Earth, and being a human in the war, it appeared to him that when there was more solar activity, solar flares and these types of things, that people down here on Earth just kind of got stupid, right? So I got him intrigued. So he did an exhaustive study of human history after the war. So that if you start to the far left on the blue line on top, that's 1749. And then it wraps around on the bottom of the blue line to 1926. What's being plotted in the blue line is a dot each year for the number of major human events that occurred that year. Revolution, start of wars, big things, right? The red line on the bottom is the solar cycle for the same time period. You think there might be a relationship there. It's amazing. And this has been, of course, been confirmed many, many times over and brought into modern times, and the same thing is still true today. So that may sound like, these background fields are out to get us. No. Those peaks in the solar cycles, which is a 10.5 to 11-year cycle, are also the greatest periods of human flourishing. Most discoveries in science, music, arts, right? So think of this as an energetic influx. And it really gets down to how conscious we are, how self-regulated we are. How do we use that energy? Right? If you're a politician and you're not well self-regulated, you go start wars, right? or you get in more traffic accidents and squabbles and arguments and so on, or we use it to co-create, to solve new problems. So to do science, we have to measure things. So listening in on the Earth's energetic systems, we created what we call the Global Coherence Monitoring System. And this is a global network of some of the most sensitive magnetometers that are designed specifically to measure the resonant frequencies in the Earth's magnetic fields. It's what the one in Boulder Creek, California looks like at our facility. But we have these around the world now: Canada, South Africa, New Zealand, Lithuania, Saudi Arabia. Colombia is going in next to give you a kind of example. It's the only globally interconnected monitoring system specifically designed to measure the resonance of the Earth that exists. So this is some real data here. This is the little white dots you see in the center of these two graphs is Earth. See, there's some relatively new satellites that are visualizing the magnetic field of Earth, the geomagnetic field. And what's neat about this image is you can actually see the ringing, the vibration of the Earth's field. Can everybody see that? So this is like the North Pole, South Pole, the geomagnetic field. Okay, that's a static or a stationary field, like a refrigerator magnet, pure magnetic field. But those field lines, okay, I'm going to just time travel back to science class back in high school, junior high. Remember when you got to dump iron filings on a glass plate and you put a magnet under it? Well, those lined up in lines, right? Not just this homogeneous blob of black stuff. Those lines are magnetic field lines. And they literally act like guitar strings. So when you pluck a guitar string, what happens? Vibrates, right? And it has a frequency or a note. Well, the magnetic field lines of Earth work exactly the same way. So what's plucking the lines of Earth is the solar wind rushing by. So they're vibrating. And that's what you're seeing here in this visualization, is the ringing of the Earth's magnetic field lines. Now, when we measure them on Earth, this is the frequencies of these, what are called field line resonances, is a technical term for them. So these are the peaks of them. And one of the peaks that we often see is down in the first one is 0.1 hertz. And that's kind of relevant because that is exactly the same frequency as the coherent human heart rhythm. Get what I just said? Our hearts, when we're coherent, in other words, when we're loving, appreciative, caring, is the same frequency as Earth. But all of those resonant frequencies of Earth overlap with the rhythms in our nervous system, in our cardiovascular system, in the same range. Okay, the other set of frequencies we're measuring with our global monitoring system are called Schumann resonances. And these are magnetic waves that are basically trapped, if you will, between the surface of the Earth and the bottom of the ionosphere. The ionosphere you could think of as a big soap bubble around the planet. And it's a plasma, and one of the qualities of the ionosphere is that it's like a mirror to magnetic waves. They bounce off of it. That's how ham radio operators can talk to somebody on the other side of the planet. Send their radio wave up, it hits it and bounces off, and that's how that works. So these waves that get created, if they're resonant, in other words, they fit the geometry of the chamber, become what are called globally propagating standing waves. Translate that into people talk, they're everywhere all the time. Okay? And there's 8 of them. The first one is 7.8 hertz. Some of you might recognize that, or into brainwaves, alpha. All of the Schumann resonances overlap human brainwaves. Okay? Now these are much lower magnitude than the field line resonances, but basically Earth is vibrating at the same frequency as our brains and hearts, our hearts and brains. So back to science class, you might remember tuning forks. Everybody get to play with tuning forks? Where you have 2 of them and you bang on one, and we all see this, right? And the other one magically starts to vibrate with it. So what that's showing is the principle of resonance, coherent resonance, or resonance, energy transfer through resonance. So in that case, it's molecules of air that are translating the energy, but the same thing works in magnetics, magnetic waves. You just don't need the air molecules. That's how our cell phones work again. Thousands of cell calls going on in here right now. How do we know the call we want? Create a resonant, tune the receiver to be resonant with the frequency, and boom, there's the energy and information. What I'm really saying here is humanity is resonating at the same frequency as Earth. So we have a pretty clear possibility for the energy transfer of energy and information. This is data from one of the first studies we've gone on to replicate this now in a global level, but I wanted to show you this because this is a group of people wearing monitors that measure your heart rhythm, your heart rate variability, over a month, continuously. And when we averaged this together at the group level, we were shocked to find that the group's heart rhythms were synchronized. And these people are spread across the state of California in this example, some in the south, some in the north, some in the central. How could this be? Well, when we looked, the only thing that made any plausible sense was that they were synchronizing to something they were all exposed to, the Earth's magnetic field. That's the red line you see here. The blue line is the group level heart rhythm. They're synchronized at a much, much more significant and deep level than I ever thought we would see. So we went on, and I don't have time to show you the data, but have replicated this at a global level. So we really are in sync with the Earth and each other at a very deep and fundamental level, way past what I would ever have predicted. Right? And it's our hearts that are in sync, and in sync with the Earth and others. So basically this suggests that we feed, I call it what am I feeding the field? And I would invite you all to consider throughout, well, not just the conference, but especially during this conference, what am I feeding the field? How much of it is love, kindness, compassion, versus maybe irritation or impatience or frustration, those kinds of things? Because it all counts, right? Basically, what I'm saying is a big giant feedback loop between the Earth itself, energetically, and humanity. And what the data suggests is that we can amplify, when we come together with a shared intention in a heart coherent state, we can amplify this. We can put a much stronger coherent signal into the field environment. And that's affecting the global field, right? We kind of have to like each other for this to work, right? Is what the data suggests. Kind of have to be able to get along. And to facilitate this is really exciting for us. This is well over a year's worth of work. This first time it's ever been introduced is at this conference. In fact, we just got it in the App Store for Google and Google Play and the Apple Store day before yesterday, I think. It was last minute. So this is the launch of this. It's called the Global Coherence Ap. And there's a little thing in your bag that explains it and sensors out there. So basically, if you want to participate, what we're going to be doing is tracking how much coherence, how much heart energy we feed the field collectively throughout the conference. This is what the ACT tracks. So it's going to measure our individual coherence and at the group level for those of you that choose to participate. So if you want to play with us and help feed the field here, go on, download the app. You have to search on Global Coherence, the whole term, Global Coherence. Download the app and register. You do need a heart, well, you don't actually have to have a sensor, but it's a lot more fun if you do because it measures your coherence. It's what Mauricio was wearing. So it's both Android and iOS. Right now, it only works with the Bluetooth sensor. That'll get fixed in a couple days. That's an Apple thing. Couple neat screens. This one here on the screen on the left shows what it looks like when we're in low coherence, the one on the right, when we're in high coherence. So the outer rings reflect what's happening at the group level. How coherent are we in sync as a group? And the inner white ring is your personal score, your personal coherence level. And then it's got all kinds of stats and numbers, and we're going to track how much coherence we've collectively fed the field here at the SAN conference. So that'll all be fed back within the app. There's also a neat thing here. If you the little icon up in the top, it looks like an Earth. That takes you to a map. Okay, so you can see where people are anywhere in the world who are participating. Now, it'll probably just be here because we're just introducing it for the first time. And I only have a minute left. So I'm going to rush through a technique that we can use actually to help create more coherence. It's called shift and lift. It's a technique that's really designed to create an uplifting effect that can really raise our vibration, our vibration of consciousness. So we can feed the field with higher vibrations. And what the research has shown in multiple studies now is when we're coherent, the field we're radiating, the measurable field, literally can lift others into a more coherent state. Right? It really does matter. Shift and lift. First step is called heart-focused breathing. Basically, focus your attention in the area of the heart. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your chest or heart area. Breathe in a little slower and deeper than usual. And the heart focus does matter because we're wanting to shift the rhythms into that coherent rhythm. Step 2, activate feelings of appreciation, kindness, genuine connection, or an attitude of deep listening to raise your vibration. Step 3, radiate those heart qualities to help lift the vibration of the field environment surrounding you. And as I'm saying, the rest of humanity at the same time. So the quick steps, just to remember this: heart-focused breathing, activate, and radiate. Right? So you're shifting to the heart, radiating to lift the field environment of the conference and humanity. Make sense? So I invite you to practice that. And if you do have hopefully some of you got the message that have a sensor already and brought it. So to practice regularly throughout the conference, maybe in the morning meditations or your times in between sessions in the evenings. Also, I should mention that at the booth out there's this giant kind of big coherence light ball that was designed by one of the HeartMath certified trainers. I always forget his name, but I should give him credit. Will Schoen, as it was his name. It's kind of a very neat thing. It was actually at Burning Man this year, so we're allowing us to show it here. But it lights up and changes its dynamics based on the coherence of the collective, the group. So you can kind of go interact with it and play with it if you have the app and a sensor at the booth outside the door. So even a few people radiating heart qualities to others in the environment can create an uplifting vibration and facilitate more connectedness, more alignment, and better, I think, global outcomes. So thank you. I appreciate your attention, and enjoy the conference.